Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Amanda and today we're going to be chatting through all the books that I would like to read in the month of November. I do have a couple different piles going on my desk at the moment because I have kind of different categories of books that need to be read in November. So we do have some required books, I'm calling them. These are mainly book club books and some arcs and things. So let's start with that. The only arc I need to read in November is The Kingdom of Sweets, I believe it's called. It's an arc that comes out at the very end of the month on the 28th. This is by Erica Johansson, I believe, who wrote a very popular fantasy series, and I'm really excited to read this. I've heard a lot of buzz about this book. People are really excited about it. It's a retelling, I believe, of the Nutcracker or some sort of Christmas book. I know it's like Christmas themed, so I will be reading this before it comes out because I was sent the book by the publisher, so I'm looking forward to reading it and I hope it's a great time. Moving on to book clubs, I am part of 3 book clubs, which one of them I don't really need to participate in. It's just kind of like for fun, but I may not participate in that one this month if I have too much going on, but we'll just see. So my in real life book club, we are going to be reading Glue, which I currently have on order. I don't really know much about this. I did listen to the audiobook sample of this and it was so difficult to understand what was being said. So I did have to order a physical copy and I'm kind of nervous to read this one. It just doesn't sound like my type of book, but it could surprise me. I could end up loving it. We don't know. But I need to read this for November, and thankfully our meeting isn't until like the end of the month, so I'll have a long time to read this book because it is quite long and it sounds kind of dense and the font was tiny and hopefully it's good, but we'll just see. And then my book club, the Literary Coven book club, I'm so excited to be reading our November pick, and that is Rouge by Mona Awad. I struggle to remember how to pronounce this book. I keep wanting to say Rogue, but I know it's not pronounced that way. So I believe this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I've heard a lot that it's about comments on the beauty industry and society, and I'm really looking forward to it. And it's supposed to be horror, which is why I picked it as one of our picks for the book club, so I'm hoping it is kind of horrific in nature. There will be a live show for this book in the first weekend of December. Hopefully, we'll just see how things fall, but that's what I'm planning on, and I hope we all love it. For my word search TBR for this quarter, I have yet to read the 2 books that were chosen, so I think this month would be a good time to pick before the coffee gets cold because I have so many chunky books on my TBR that I think something short and quick that I could just fly through is a perfect pick. So don't know what to expect with this one. I hope it's great. I would love to own this whole series because these books just look so charming and they sound so good. So I think I'm gonna put this one on the TBR because, you know, a nice little quick fast read would be perfect. I should just realize I'm part of like 4 book clubs. That's crazy. I am like kind of participating in the Literally Dead book club. I want to participate more because I really want to read more like horror thriller things, but I just feel like 4 book clubs might be too many for me, so I may drop that book club of all the book clubs that I have going. But they are reading Midnight is the Darkest Hour, which I am quite interested in, but I would have to buy a copy because my library doesn't have it, so I may just skip it for this month because there's just a lot of books that I want to read more than that, so I may just end up not reading that. But the other book club that I totally forgot that I'm participating in is the Catch Up book club. So we're going to be reading The Heroes by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second standalone book in the First Law universe, and I loved the other standalone that we read. I think that's my favorite Joe Abercrombie book I've read ever. So I'm hoping this one is just as good. Like maybe his standalones are just better than his series. I don't know. So I think we were technically supposed to read this book last month in October, but with the host traveling and things, I just don't think that happened. So I'm kind of hoping I could get this read in November and still be able to watch the live show. If not live, then very shortly afterwards. So I believe this follows Black Dow, which I'm interested to follow him because he's been an interesting character throughout this series, and I look forward to seeing what's in store. I am hosting a little readathon for me, myself, and I to reread the entirety of the Aragon Dragon book series in honor of Murtagh coming out in just a few short weeks. So the final book I need to read before that book comes out is Inheritance. Rereading this series has been quite an interesting journey. I have not enjoyed this series as much as little kid me has, but I am interested to see what's going to happen. But these books are essentially just the same thing over and over and over again with like a slight variation at the end. Like the endings are so good, but like the rest of the book is so boring. So it's been a very like 3-star series for me, but I'm reading this for Murtagh because I love Murtagh. So well, hopefully this one might be better, but we'll see. This one is one of the longer ones. It's like 800 pages. So we'll just see. And for Aurelium Academy, there has been this super fun year-long readathon called Adventures in Aldea, and every month, besides the 2 months that we do our semester of reading, we get a prompt, and depending on what prompt you read, you go a certain way on the board and you end up with something. I specifically chose my path, so I would get an owl cat at the end because that's just adorable. So I need to read a book that is at risk of an unhaul, and I keep scouring my shelves like, what books do I not want? And I could technically read one of the unread books that I have for sale on my Pinko store, but I just don't want to read any of those. Like that's why they're for sale, because I really don't want to read those. But I picked a book that I think is a good candidate because I've heard terrible things about the later books in this series. So I feel like I may not want to read this series if the later books are terrible. And that is A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos. I have been interested in this book for years. The premise just sounds so cool. There's like mirror magic, and while this is YA, I have heard it reads a little bit older than YA. So I'm looking forward to reading it, but at the same time, like I don't know if it's going to be a series that I want to continue with. So we're going to read this for that prompt, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it is. I do have the audiobook from Libro FM. I bought the audiobook when it was on like super sale, so I will be listening to this one and hope it's a good time at least. So those are all the books that I'm marking as like required books. Obviously my book club books will be read and any ARCs will be read, but everything else is just free game. And I'm gonna go through like another like at least 5 or 6 more books or more because there's so many books that I want to read and I just want to read them all. I just don't think it's gonna happen, but a girl can dream, you know? The next stack I have is books that I currently have either on hold or currently borrowed from the library as audiobooks. So the first one is God Killer, which I am so looking forward to reading. This cover is like one of my favorite covers ever. It's just so mystical and magical. So I do have this book currently downloaded on Libby and I do really want to listen to this. It goes back like mid-ish November, so I'm hoping I could get started on this. I honestly placed a ton of my Illumicrate books on hold as audiobooks so I could start getting through them, and this is one of them. So looking forward to reading this one. I know it's fantasy of some sort and I'm looking forward to reading it. Another one that I will likely be reading in November is Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. This is another Illumicrate book. I'm really trying to get through my collection because I've just been like collecting these books but not really like reading them. But I really want to start reading them and maybe make a video chatting through if Illumicrate books are worth the subscription. So I think that'd be interesting, but I kind of got to read the books before I do that. So I'm really interested in this one. I think this is one of their more contemporary picks and I will be reading this for sure in November because I will be starting it probably like end of October. So looking forward to this one. And finally, another book that I have on hold as an audiobook. I'm so excited. I might just read this book without the audiobook, but we'll see. That is Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I am so excited to have another Cassandra Clare book in my hands. I grew up reading the Shadowhunter books and spent most of COVID, honestly, starting from the beginning and like reading every single book. Like as a kid, I had read a good chunk of them, but then I kind of lost that connection with the series. And then I'm like, you know what? I really want want to revisit that series. So now I've read every Shadowhunter book and it's been great. She does have her problems, I do admit, but I just think her series are just so fun and I love her books. So this is another one I really want to get to because this is her first book outside of the Shadowhunter realm and is her adult debut, which is also very exciting. So I honestly haven't seen much buzz about this book. I mean, obviously people are talking about Cassandra Clare, but I haven't seen much specifically about this one and like seen no reviews. So I'm excited to go into this with like no thoughts about how it could go, and hopefully it's good. Next up is a book that I'm rolling over from October. I was going to do this like spooky reading vlog and then I just completely lost interest in doing that. Like it's been interesting working full time and trying to make content, and I'm just learning that themed vlogs are just not in the cards for me working full time. So we're really just here to mood read and hang out. So hopefully y'all are okay with that. I'm just gonna leave all the themed vlogs for the girlies who can do that. But a book that I still really want to read that I had planned to make a video about but never did is Starling House by Alexi Haro. I love Alexi Haro. Like her books are truly so good and I really want to read this one, and I don't want to let too much time pass before I read this one because I can see this just slipping away on my shelves and then like I'll read it like 3 years later. So I'd really like to read this one sooner rather than later if I can. It is quite short as well and I'm just dying to read this. I've heard it's like gothic and just, oh, I can't wait. So if that wasn't enough books, I have 3 more that are huge that I really want to read. And this might even be morphing into like an end of year TBR kind of a thing because these are books that I would definitely like to read before the end of 2023, which is very quickly approaching. I don't want to let a year pass by before I read the next book I'm going to talk about, because if I don't read this book, at least start it this year, I'm gonna be real disappointed. And that is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is the prequel to Priory of the Orange Tree, which is my favorite book. Like, it's out on my shelf. It's my favorite book. So if I don't at least start this year, I'm gonna be real disappointed because I claim that Priory is my favorite. Why would I not pick this up? It's just been kind of intimidating me because I've seen a lot of people who love Priory start and read this book and DNF it. So I'm a little nervous because a lot of people seem to not like this book who love Priory. So I think that's been holding me back, but we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna do it. We're gonna read this. If not in November, then at some point before the end of the year because I need to read this. I also need to read Fourth Wing. Everyone is still talking about this book and more people in my book club are reading this and telling me that I'm gonna love it, that I need to read it. Why haven't you read it yet? And I'm like, I know, I know. And I went ahead and pre-ordered the second book because with how crazy the first book sold, I thought I might as well get the second book first printing on order so I can at least get that. So I do really want to read this before that comes in, so I don't have too much time before that happens, but I would like to make that happen because I want to read this, I want to see what it's all about, and I will definitely vlog on my thoughts about this because I feel like I'm gonna have a lot. And the final book, which is completely unrealistic to read because of all these other books, like seriously, just like the few book club books I mentioned, it was enough for a TBR, but then I'm putting like so many more books on my TBR. It's just unreasonable, but I still really want to read Ship of Destiny. This is the third book in the Live Ship Trader series, and I also don't want to end this year without having finished this trilogy at least. And I'm gonna start putting more emphasis on Robin Hobb in 2024. I want to get through her series in 2024 if I can because I love her books. Like, she has truly cemented herself as one of my absolute favorite authors of all time. She is such an amazing writer, and her characters, while I hate so many of them, I love them too, and it's just, oh, she's just fantastic. So I really would like to get this one read as well, but we'll just see what is in store for me because this is a lot. So that is going to be it for my November TBR. I don't think I'm gonna read all of these at all. Like truly, this is just kind of things I'm thinking about reading, kind of wanting to read, and also kind of an end of year TBR. Like I feel like the last few books I mentioned are definitely books that I don't think I'm gonna read this month, but would definitely like to read before the end of the year. And I plan on taking like a 10-day vacation in December. It's more of a staycation. I'm not going anywhere. And I think that's gonna be an awesome time to just read, which I'm so looking forward to. So I'm hoping I can spend that time getting through some of these last minute books that I haven't been able to get through, and I'm looking forward to that. So that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you all so very much for watching. Let me know what you all are hoping to read in November, as I would love to know, and I will see you all in another video soon. Goodbye!